Okay, all praise, glory, and honor is most certainly due to the Most High, the God of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, into the name of His Son. I count it truly a blessing each and every single time that I can come before you to preach the Word of God, and never do kind of the right thing to do so. All right, brothers and sisters. I just want to start off by saying thank you for your support. We were able to finally get outside, and we were at the church all day long doing that today. So we just want to thank you most of all. We want to thank the Most High for blessing us and it's a beautiful sign, and we're just thankful. With that, brothers and sisters, I want to get right into today's topic, and the topic is concerning the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Supreme Court Justice, and what implications. Peace to you, Brother Willie. I got to text you something in the hopefully tonight. I'm gonna text something to you. I had a question to ask you. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg died recently, and I want to read something here. And I want to deal with this issue that I deal with quite often, because I feel it is a we have certain problems that are amongst our people, certain activities that we are engaged in as a people, quite frankly, overlooked. Like, for example, the fatherless issue, the out of wedlock birth rate. We have 77% of our children being roughly born out of wedlock. Fatherlessness in the homes, you see all these problems associated with a lack of men in the home. And one thing also, even though people are talking about police shootings of Black men, which are roughly not even 200. I mean, it's comparable to how many whites get killed. It's like 200 a year, if that. We are aborting our children still, like 40 going north. And I want to read, this is from the New York Post. This came from yesterday. It was published yesterday. It says, landmark Roe v. Wade case could be overturned after Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death. It said the death of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg could have dire implications for Roe v. Wade, the decision affirming a woman's right to abortion. Okay. You don't have a right to kill your children, but nevertheless, a judicial third rail since the day it was handed down in 73. Ginsburg had been a longtime champion of the ruling and voted to defend abortion rights time and again during her 27-year tenure on the High Court. As late as March 2020, Ginsburg was undiminished as she questioned lawyers arguing on behalf of new abortion hurdles in Louisiana. Throughout her life and work, Justice Ginsburg affirmed and reaffirmed that under the law, men and women deserve equal protection and equal freedom to make decisions based on their conscience. Sarah Hutchinson Ratcliffe, acting president of Catholics for Choice, said in a statement, her tireless efforts on the issue did not go unnoticed by Republican critics. RIP to the more than 30 million innocent babies that have been murdered during the decades that Ruth Bader Ginsburg defended pro-abortion laws, tweeted Doug Collins, was running for office in Georgia. Yeah, so people are, the hypocrisy of people. You're talking about this woman that died, and I'm not saying I want anybody to die, but what about all the babies? What about all the children that were aborted? What about that? So it says, it goes on to say, liberals bereft of her death have reason to fear that the landmark law she fiercely protected. See, that's her legacy. Okay, that is her legacy. Advocating for abortion, or in a sense. But it says, liberals bereft at her death have reason to fear that the landmark law she fiercely protected, I'll say that, protected, may now be in jeopardy. During his 2016 presidential campaign, then candidate Trump explicitly promised to appoint judges who will vote to overturn Roe, and I pray it happens. I'm going to just be honest. I am pro-life, and I will be appointing pro-life judges, Trump said during a debate with Hillary Clinton. I am putting pro-life justices on the court. It will go back to the states, and the states will then make a determination. I hope that takes place. I pray. On September 9th, Trump released a list of candidates he would choose from should a new Supreme Court opening emerge. Many of the contenders, like Senator Ted Cruz, have long histories of standing against abortion rights. All right. Now I want to go to the script. Well, actually, before I go to the book, the good book, I want to go to some statistics. Okay. So when you look at since Roe v. Wade in 1973 to roughly about 2017, you're talking roughly, when you talk about Black abortions, okay, according to the CDC, you're talking close to 20 million abortions, or roughly. To put this in perspective, last year, in 2017, because oftentimes these statistics, and this is from the CDC, these statistics are years behind because it takes a while to get these statistics. But in 2017, okay, white non-Hispanics, there were 2 million births, live births. For Blacks, there were 575,000 live births. Now, for abortions, there were, in 2017, 280,000 white non-Hispanic abortions. But for Blacks, there were 295,000 abortions. See, you can't, and people talk about when you invoke this into the Black Lives Matter, this is where all the death is occurring. How do we ignore this? And it is not your right. So, not your right to kill a child. So that's that. When I say we have a death culture, brothers and sisters, we have a death culture. The most dangerous place for a black child is in the womb. We are roughly 40 million, and you've aborted 20 million. We're like 46 million or something like that, roughly. So it's just a travesty. And it's an issue dear to my heart. And when I really understood what was going on with us, it's disheartening. But now I want to go to the Bible, brothers and sisters, and show you what the Bible says about the issue. Let's go to Psalms 127, division, so we can understand, first of all, what children are. Psalms 127. And it's a travesty what's happening. And I'm going to keep talking about it. If you don't like it, I'm going to keep talking about it. If you like it, I'm going to keep talking about it. It is what it is. You can't kill, and you can't kill. I pray that it's overturned. You can't keep killing all these children and expect not for no retribution. You reap what you sow. This is Psalms 127. In verse 3, it says, "Lo, children are an inheritance of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward." Children, brothers and sisters, are a blessing. Don't get me wrong. Children, you can have difficult times with children, bringing up children, making sacrifices, but ultimately, children are a blessing. So it says, again, "Lo, children are an inheritance of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward." Now, we should also understand, then he says, "As arrows are in the hand of a mighty man, so are children of the youth." Then he says, "Happy is the man that hath his quiver full of them." Yeah, you want children. It says, "They shall not be ashamed, but they shall speak with the enemies at the gate." Let's go to Genesis. Because I want to read something here in Genesis. And see, this is associated with the problem that we have as a people. This is Genesis 1. I'm going to pick it up at verse 26. It says, "And God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. So he made a male and female. Then he says, and God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. So he brought a man and a woman together and he blessed them. The blessing was to be fruitful and multiply. But what did he give us to do that? Let's pick it up in the second book of Genesis, the second chapter of Genesis, verse 23. It says, and Adam said, this is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man. Isha. Then it says, therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And that's the institution of marriage. See, one of the reasons why we have so many abortions is because, number one, we obviously lost our moral compass. We totally lost our way. Totally. We're totally going out the back door morally and have been duped by these people who have presented this to us, Margaret Sanger and others. And ministers of I cover this in this book that I wrote, Killing Black Innocence, the program to control African-American reproduction from slavery's end to the present day self-inflicted genocide. It's available on Amazon.com. Barnes and Noble and other places where books are sold. I break this down, how they used our leadership to encourage birth control. And ultimately what you're seeing today is straight up genocide. You can't say it's not genocide. You know, I was looking at an article that said that's a false notion. How is it a false notion with all these deaths of Black babies? How is it false when you look around and see what Planned Parenthood is? And ultimately, when you it's in our neighborhoods, Black and brown communities, how is it false when you understand what Margaret Sanger was about? She was a eugenicist. And that institution was born out of eugenics. Now think about this now. Democrats are, you look at the connection they have with Planned Parenthood. That's number one. Number two, they're pushing homosexuality, same-sex marriage. That's not good for our communities. You see BLM pushing the destruction of the nuclear family, the traditional nuclear family of man, woman, child. You see the policies that were put forth by Democrats largely to promote welfare and to get men, oftentimes kicking men out of the home in order to receive these things. You see the pushing of sexual liberation. You see the pushing of certain things being acceptable, like having children out of wedlock, like having sex, again, outside of the confines of marriage. All these things have been a detriment. These things are detrimental to us. This hasn't benefited us. You think smaller numbers is beneficial to you? You think having all the babies you do have out of wedlock is beneficial to you? No, it leads to poverty. It leads to all types of problems with your children. It leads to fractured households. And see, most of these abortions are taking place not because of rape, not because of incest, it's basically because, for the most part, a child is inconvenient. That's why they're having all these abortions. So now he put forth the institution of marriage so that within that institution, children will be brought forth. And then within that institution, within that structure of a man and a woman, because that's the only ones that can truly be married. Why? Because in principle, this is what the institution was for. It was, since antiquity, it was for the reproduction of children. And this is how they are best cared for. A mother and a father who are in a covenant with each other. So now let's see what marriage is about. Let's go to Malachi. See what you're supposed to bring forth real quick. Let's go to Malachi. And peace to everybody that's in the chat. It's good to see you there. And he tells you here, in talking about how you're supposed to treat your wife, he says in Malachi 2:15, and did not he make one? He made him one in the beginning. In Genesis, in the Bereshit. So it says, yet had he the residue of the spirit, and wherefore one? Or why did he make him one? That he might seek a godly seed. Therefore, take heed to your spirit and let none deal treacherously against the wife of his youth. So he brought them together so that he would bring forth a godly seed. And that seed in the womb, brothers and sisters, the Bible shows us that there's personhood there, and that which is in the womb has just as much right as he or she who is outside of the womb. Let's go to Exodus, the 21st chapter. Exodus, the 21st chapter. Because the Bible doesn't say don't have an abortion, but it does say thou shalt not murder or thou shalt not kill. And then we can see here through what's written that it is wrong to have an abortion, induced abortion. This is Exodus 21 and verse 22. It says, if men strive and hurt a woman with child, so a woman that is pregnant, so that her fruit depart from her. So because of what these men did, they strive one another and they caused this woman to go into premature labor. It says, and yet no mischief follow, meaning the child doesn't not die. Okay, the one that caused this, it said he shall be surely punished according as the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. So he would be fined if he caused this woman to go into premature labor. He said, and if mischief follow, then if something's wrong with the child, he said, then thou shalt give life for life. See, life begins at conception. There's life in the womb, brothers and sisters. Eye for an eye. So it says, and if any mischief follow, then thou shalt give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, strife for strife. See, there's personhood there. That shows you the sanctity of life, even in the womb. Let's go to Jeremiah, the 1st chapter. Because one thing about it, you don't know who you're killing in the womb. This is Jeremiah, the 1st chapter. Actually, let's go to Psalms 139. And let's see something David said. Because you are really destroying that which is made in the image and the likeness of God. You do not have the right, based on the right of privacy, when you look at this bogus decision that came down from the Supreme Court. You don't have the right to privacy and privacy to kill your child. For all this talk about women's rights and this foolishness, I was reading just an asinine, it was from the Massachusetts Planned Parenthood, and they were talking about some of the people that had been killed in incidents with the police recently. And they were talking about that, but you're not going to talk about all the babies you're killing? You're talking about somebody, they were naming people. Now you're talking about people who died under questionable circumstances. Questionable circumstances. When you really look at these cases, you better determine whether or not you should actually be in support of these people getting millions of dollars. Their families getting millions of dollars, rather. You need to really look into the case and see what's really going on. I'm telling you, you've been duped in more ways than one. I'm not going to sit up here and lie to you. So now, but you're talking about them, but you're not going to talk about all the millions of babies you've killed? You're a hypocrite. This is Psalms 139 and verse 13. He says, for thou hast possessed my reins, thou hast covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right well. Let's go to Jeremiah, the 1st chapter. See, even from the womb, brothers and sisters, the Lord can be dealing with people even from the womb. Let's read it here. This is Jeremiah, the 1st chapter. We're going to pick it up in verse 4. It says, then the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. And before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. He's talking about Jeremiah. We benefit from what Jeremiah did and from what Jeremiah wrote, even until this day. But when was his sanctification? It was in the womb. Galatians, the 1st chapter. Let's see another example of this. See, you don't know who you're killing in the womb. We're in Galatians, and you don't have the right to do that. Galatians 1 and verse 15. Here Paul writes, but when it pleased God, who separated me, what does it say? From my mother's womb and called me by his grace. See, he was separated from his mother's womb. It said to reveal his son in me that I might preach him among the heathen. He was an apostle unto the Gentiles. He had a message directly from God to the world. Immediately I can conjure not with flesh and blood. So understand, again, what Paul did and what Paul wrote, we benefit from even unto this day. That's been used to convert so many unto Christ. And yet you would have those who would say you can kill the child in the womb. You don't have the right to kill the child in the womb. You don't have that right. But let's go to Exodus, because this isn't the first time that we've experienced genocide. Exodus, the 1st chapter. Let's pick it up in Exodus, the 1st chapter. See, this is not the first time they've been trying to kill you, and you foolish women, and some of you foolish men are talking about the rights and feminism and the rights that you have to kill in the womb. As if that's good. As if that's something you should be fighting for. You should be fighting for the child that's in the womb. And I know people don't want to hear it. But Exodus, the 1st chapter, verse 13. It says, this is when they were in Egypt. They sojourned in Egypt, in bondage. It says, and the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage and mortar and in brick and all manner of service in the field. All their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor. And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, those women who delivered the children, of which the name of the one was Shipra and the name of the other Puah. And he said, when ye do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. Why? Because you are who your father is. And if you kill all the men, and take all the women and impregnate the women with Egyptian seed, those children are Egyptian. Okay? So just like what you're looking at with us right now, when you look at all our young people that are engaged in criminal activity and going to jail and incarcerated, those are oftentimes the prime years in which they should be with their wife reproducing. So you have that high incarceration rates. Then you have those who are impregnating women, but then aborting the children. That you're aborting the children. So you're doing the job of people that hate you. You must hate yourself. He said, when ye do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. So this was genocide. But the midwives feared God and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. And the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said unto them, why have ye done this thing and have saved the men children alive? Because they weren't going to do it. They knew it was wrong. And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, but understand, women today don't know what's wrong. Men today don't know what's wrong. It's wrong, brothers and sisters. And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively and are delivered ere or before the midwives come in unto them. Therefore God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty. See, they grew. We're not really growing like that. Why? Because we had so many abortions. I'm going to read this number again from 2017. For whites, non-Hispanics, there were not 2,051,000 live births and 280,000 abortions. For blacks, there were 575,000 live births and 295,000 abortions. Verse 21. And it came to pass because the midwives feared God that he made them houses. And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born ye shall cast into the river, and every daughter ye shall save alive. So they were throwing the babies in the river. That was genocide. But that wasn't the first time we've experienced genocide. Matthew, the 2nd chapter. Let's see what was said or what happened when the Messiah was was born. And understand also that Moses is, Jesus rather, a prophet like unto Moses. He's the one where you read in Deuteronomy, the 17th chapter, where he says, in Deuteronomy, the 18th chapter, where he says, the Lord thy God will raise up unto thee a prophet from the midst of thee of thy brethren, like unto me, him ye shall hear, hearken. That is referring to the Messiah, but that's just a side note. Now, that's why when they found him, they said, we found the one that the prophets were talking about. Okay, but now let's pick it up in Matthew. I'm going to read in chapter 2 and verse 16, and let's see what happened when Messiah was born. It says, because the wise men came, they sought him, and Herod and all the people were troubled. And Herod, who was a megalomaniac, he was killing his own family members because he thought they were threatening his power. It says in verse 16, then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, because the wise men were warned not to return to Herod with the news of where he was, he said he wanted to worship him that was born king of the Jews. He really wanted to kill him. We're going to find out even where that was from. But it said, then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceeding wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem, and in all the coasts thereof from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men. So it was a while before, in the process of time. He said, so he had a 2-year window. It said, then was fulfilled that which was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet, saying, in Ramah was there a voice heard, lamentation and weeping and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children that would not but be comforted because they are not. So now you have what? You have genocide like you did in Egypt. But now let's see who was behind this. Let's go to Revelation, the 12th chapter. Revelation, the 12th chapter and verse 1. It says, and there appeared a great one in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Now, who is this referring to? Who is this woman? This woman is referring to the nation of Israel. Okay, in Genesis, the 37th chapter, I just want to read this real quick to you, just so you understand that that's symbolic of the nation. This is Genesis 37 and verse 9. This is Joseph's dream. Listen to his dream. It says, and he dreamed yet another dream and told his brethren and said, behold, I have dreamed a dream more, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. He would have been a 12 star. Remember, this represents the nation, the 12 tribes, which consisted of the 12 tribes of Israel. So it said, and he told it to his father and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him and said unto him, what is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee to the earth? See, so when you read here in verse 1 of Revelation 12, and there appeared a great one in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. That's referring to the nation. Then it says of Israel. Then it says, and she being with child cried, travailing in pain in birth, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. To deliver who? The man child, the Messiah, the Messiah. Let's pick it up in verse 3. It said, and there appeared another one in the heaven, and behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his heads. Now this dragon, who is this dragon? Verse 9, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So the dragon is talking about Satan. Then it says in verse 4, though, it says, and his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven. That's talking about the angels. And did cast them to the earth, because they fought Michael and his angels. They were cast out. But then it says something, and the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. So when did that take place? That took place in the days of Herod, though. See, what's going on in the physical realm is oftentimes a direct result of what's going on in the spiritual. Satan was behind that. So it's not like God is pleased with you killing your progeny. He told you to be fruitful and multiply. You reading in the word that children are a blessing. He said you made in the image and the likeness of God. How in the world do you think is it okay for you to go to some clinic, to spread your legs, to have somebody inject something in you, crush the head of a baby, then vacuum suck it out? All the while the baby is in pain. Then you sell the parts. You lost your mind. How is it that you think you're not going to have to pay for that? Again, you've lost your mind. With that, brothers and sisters, I want to remind you that we're at the Household of Faith, meet every Sabbath at 5925 West 25th Avenue in Gary, Indiana. We live stream right here on the Israel Teach YouTube channel, YouTube channel, Israel Teach, as well as on our website, www.israelteach.org. We also have a radio station there soon, next coming week or so, to be up and running. Additionally, if you've been edified through the ministry and would like to leave a donation, you can do so on our website, www.israelteach.org. 100% of the proceeds go to the work of the ministry. Also, brothers and sisters, there are books that, let me say this. We have Bible study every Friday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on Zoom. Again, Bible study on Zoom every Friday night. The personal meeting ID number for Zoom is 602-961-1318. If you'd like to be a part of our Bible study, the personal meeting ID number is 602-961-1318. And finally, brothers and sisters, there are books that I've written that are available for purchase on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other places where books are sold. Into Egypt again with ships. Again, killing Black innocents. The program to control African American reproduction from slavery into the present day self-inflicted genocide. The pagan origins of Christian holidays. Hair like wool, feet like burned brass, the color of Jesus and burning truths concerning the Messiah. Again, this is a fresco, just side note, fresco from, or painting from 4th century AD in Italy. Depicts Jesus and the disciples as Black. You see that over and over again in the earliest depictions. But then shall be great tribulation, and In Defense of Biblical Polygyny. All these books are available, again, on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other places where books are sold. Okay. With that, brothers and sisters, it's always my prayer that you are edified. Oh, we tried it again.